Hello everyone, and welcome to the next video in our series on Komodo Dragon's openings. And this is one that Mr. Beads is going to enjoy enormously because it's all about the Semi-Slav. So let's have a look at it. We're going to have a look at a number of different move orders, but d4, d5. Now of course Komodo Dragon would normally play knight f3, knight f6, bishop f4, but we'll force it to go c4 and then see what happens. So c6. Knight c3, knight f6, knight f3. This is Komodo Dragon's preferred line. It does spend actually a little bit of time looking at a variation that I've got very keen on, which is knight f3, knight f6, e3, which is the slow Slav that was popularized by Boris Haveruk's books on this. However, knight c3, knight f6, knight f3 is the main line, and now e6 is what Komodo Dragon is expecting, leading into the Semi-Slav. D takes c4 is the real Slav, and here a4, bishop f5, knight e5 is what Komodo Dragon wants to play. It's quite striking really that it considers best play to be the line that Alekhine and Erva were fighting out in the 1930s, and that also got revitalized by Alexander Morozevich. So g3, e5, takes, bishop f4, knight fd7, bishop g2, and now f6 was played a lot in the 1930s, but Morozevich against Kasparov came up with g5. It wasn't sufficient for that game. Gary still came through with white, but it's turned out to be a very good line for black really. And after castles takes a5, just stopping white from going a5 to a6 and preparing to go h5 yourself. Black turns out to be to stand actually quite well, and it's only a small advantage for white. So this is what Komodo considers to be the best play after d takes c4, so the knight e5 line, not the e3 line that I spent so much time on as a professional, but from both sides actually, from white and black. So, but after e6, what does Komodo Dragon want to play? It wants to play bishop g5, which offers some of the sharpest lines in chess. In particular, the Botvinnik system. Now, this is really interesting because the Botvinnik system has been basically analysed out to a draw by engines. But it's quite interesting the line that a Komodo Dragon chooses. I mean, there could be any number, but it chooses Smyslov's old line with bishop e7. So not the hugely complicated knight bd7, g3, bishop b7 lines, but simply bishop e7. And its main line follows a correspondence game up till, I think is it move 30? Move 33 in actual fact. So knight a6, bishop g2, bishop b7, knight e4, queen e7, castles, and I mean black's got this big queenside mass, one pawn less, but the d4 pawn is very weak. White's got chances actually with the wing pawns really. Got a passed h pawn, and also the chance to attack the queen side with a4. But it seems that these things eventually come out in balance basically. As always, you know, the engines make it look easier than it actually is, but it turns out that this is ending basically in a theoretical draw, and this has all been played in a correspondence game and all been played in played out in Komodo Dragon's analysis here, and this position I think this was agreed. Drawn in a couple of moves. This is Komodo Dragon's novelty, king g4, but it doesn't really think that this makes much difference. It's an evaluation of 0.39, so a slight advantage to white. Obviously for human eyes you'd need a lot more analysis to be comfortable with this, but from an engine perspective this is supposed to be drawn. But quite striking, you know, that Komodo Dragon didn't choose all the other lines that were possible, but really tried this Smyslov line that certainly when I was professional was thought to be, you know, one of the bad lines. So another very sharp line after bishop g5 is you can play h6, and after bishop h4, this is Dragon's move, bishop f6. Got a lot of attention when I was professional, generally thought to be not too scary for black. Komodo Dragon suggests this line, which is also the line that I played as white, but yeah, it doesn't really promise black that much, promise white that much rather. E5, knight g3, king h8, rook c1, f5, and we're following a correspondence game, and I think Boris Gelfand has also played this with black, but it's not very much at all for white. d5, knight e5, and knight e2 was Komodo's quite nice idea, just to bring the knight round to f4, which is quite nice, but a5, knight f4, queen e8, threatening g5, and black should be completely fine here. But bishop h4 is what all the engines want to play, and there were some very, very sharp lines here, and some very, very good games played between AlphaZero and Stockfish. AlphaZero came up with some very interesting plans. Actually, funnily enough, Dragon's main choice, which we'll go back later, is not to take on c4 here, but it's just to play bishop e7, a very solid line that Stockfish also played in those games against AlphaZero. But let's have a look at d takes c4, e4 g5, bishop g3 b5, and then at lower depths Dragon will play AlphaZero's idea, which was to play h4. So for example, bishop e2, bishop b7 h4, g4 knight e5, knight bd7, takes, bishop e5, queen e7. Looks a little bit awkward for black, but actually after b3, takes, bishop g7, and then a6. Black's playing for c5 or maybe just castle kingside. It doesn't look that bad really. Now queen c1 was played, and there was quite a high-level correspondence game with knight h5 here. Komodo Dragon suggests c5 here, and suggests this very sharp line, d takes c5, threatening bishop d6 with a pin. So knight takes e4, takes a pawn and covers the d6 square. Queen a1, forking these two bishops, and after bishop e5 we've got queen a8 check, takes queen e4. But after queen c5 takes, white is a pawn up, but the opposite coloured bishops, the active queen and well, the rook's going to be active soon. It's not really that much. Bishop e2, rook d8, and Komodo Dragon considers this to be a 0.21 evaluation, but not too scary. They're still quite interesting there. What Komodo Dragon goes for after b5 is not this idea of going h4 quickly, but just to play knight e5 immediately. And we get knight bd7. Black offers the c6 pawn. This has been analysed more or less out to a draw. Bishop e2, bishop b7, castles, bishop g7, takes, bishop d6. This is again a very well-known theoretical line. Again, quite a bit of correspondence games in this. Bishop f8 takes e5 and c5, and well, it's not really a surprise, to be honest, that this ends up drawing for black. Black's a little bit awkward. Queen side's attacked, and the kings are a little bit exposed, but the centre's collapsing, and black's going to be quite active. Again, we follow a correspondence game for quite a while here. Take, knight a4, bishop c6 is Komodo Dragon's move, which is pretty reasonable. We're just going to get rid of this knight and take this pawn off, and somehow make a draw. It's a 0.19 evaluation at the end for Komodo. So these lines, again, Komodo doesn't find anything remarkable. By the way, if you want to know more about these lines, either take a look at the Game Changer channel, where we've got quite a few AlphaZero videos on this, and also my new book, The Silicon Road to Chess Improvement, analyzes these games in huge detail. Really a lot of stuff on this Moscow system. And some amazing engine games that I run with some positions that you just never believe. So well worth having a look at that. But okay, what does Komodo want? Well, what Komodo wants after h6, bishop h4 is to play bishop e7 and play some sort of orthodox Queen's Gambit declined. And quite interesting actually, because what is the idea? The idea is that after castles, queen c2, bishop d3 was AlphaZero's choice against Stockfish, but when it played these lines, it never really got anywhere really against Stockfish. Stockfish was very solid in this line. But queen c2, b6, rook c1, bishop b7, and the key idea really is not to take back with the e pawn, but to take back with the c pawn and put it more into a sort of exchange Slav type of structure. And here, bishop d3 is what Komodo Dragon wants over the previous game played. But here, knight c6, queen b1, a6, castles b5, rook d1, rook e8. You can see really that black's, well, maybe a touch worse, but there's nothing too serious there. So yeah, again, quite an interesting idea there, just to play this Orthodox Queen's Gambit declined, and then the idea being to play b6, bishop b7, and to recapture with the c pawn when you take on d5. Quite interesting. Looks pretty solid, gotta say. Just one word of warning about the move order. If you want to do the move order, then probably to play h6 first and bishop e7 is a good idea, because sometimes Stockfish played bishop e7 against AlphaZero, and then AlphaZero was playing this move bishop f4, not going back to h4 then, but bishop f4, and then it was launching this very quick attack with g4 to g5 afterwards against the king's side. And well, we've got a number of I think we've definitely got a game in Game Changer where we look at that, and this was very dangerous for black. Funnily enough, they also tried it at the TCEC, and black managed to hold it, but I mean, basically it's this is not at all what you want as black. So h6 first, letting black think that you're going to go into an anti-Moscow gambit after dc4, and then playing bishop e7 is the safest way to do this. The last idea in this position is that you can transpose back to with knight bd7. That's the standard coward's way out, when black sort of pretends that he's going to play a Moscow gambit or Botvinnik system, and then doesn't actually do it. So e3 and queen a5, the Cambridge Springs, and here Komodo players goes for a line again. These things have been debated an awful lot at the very top level. There's a very nice win of Magnus Carlsen's, I think against Boris Gelfand, that was very, very impressive. Castles, bishop d3, bishop a6, castles, and now h6, bishop f4, rook c8 is Komodo Dragon's line. Evaluation of 0.34, slight edge for white. You know, you've got a good pawn centre there, but black will aim to play c5 and open up the c file and maybe exchange off the queens or something like this, and should gradually neutralise white's space advantage. So that's another line that Komodo Dragon thinks is pretty good, really. So okay, I mean, those are the Botvinnik system lines. Now there's also something else interesting here. I mean, c4, c6 is the normal way to reach the Slav and then eventually the semi-Slav. But you can also play the move e6, and after knight c3, then you play the move c6, which is the triangle opening. I saw a course by, I think it was by Erwin Lamy recently in the triangle system. And this, you know, can just transpose after knight f3, knight f6 to a standard semi-Slav, but there are some subtle differences. First of all, after c6, white can play the Marshall Gambit with e4. Takes, and bishop b4 check. And now, funnily enough, knight c3 was Komodo Dragon's preference for around 100,000 million nodes, which is a lot. But eventually it came back round to the idea of bishop d2 here. And here we get this very sharp line. I've always been very wary of playing this as black. Always felt rather nasty with those weak dark squares. But actually, with the help of computer analysis, this has been more or less neutralized for white. Komodo Dragon wants to move knight e2, and this is very well known. It leads to a position which is slightly better for white. It's a well-known ending. The idea is king f8, there's queen d8 check. And then bishop g7, so black plays knight e7 rather. I was a little bit quick on that, sorry. Knight b4. Yeah, this is all well known. Don't worry about it. You'll find this in any book on the triangle. And there've been a couple. There's a course by Michal Kryzenkov, a big expert, and also a good book by Ruslan Sherbakov, who's another big triangle expert. But it's this ending basically, and this is a slight edge for white, slightly better pawn structure. But yeah, if black knows what he's doing, then he should definitely draw this. And Komodo Dragon gives us a 0.19 evaluation. Now, I mean, the big sharp line is instead of knight e2 is to play bishop e2. And yeah, this is very promising in a lot of lines, but again, it's been rather neutralized. This move knight a6 is very important. Pretty much anything else is something like a 0.9 to 1.0 advantage. And here we've got a couple of possibilities. I mean, basically, Komodo Dragon oscillates between the move it plays in the end, bishop d6, and bishop a5, which is the move that AlphaZero always wanted to play against Stockfish 8. In fact, there were a lot of games between AlphaZero and Stockfish that went in this fashion, and then not rook d1, which is what Komodo Dragon wanted, but knight d2. But simply a lot of draws, and Stockfish was holding this pretty well. So Komodo Dragon wants rook d1, rook d8, queen a3, quite sneaky, getting the queen out of a future attack with knight f7 and hitting this knight on a6. But after bishop c8, knight d2, queen f4, check, knight f7, castle c5. Yeah, black's ready to play castle kingside, and then black will be a pawn up with a good structure, so white's got to keep on trying to inconvenience black. But yeah, it's pretty tough, really. I mean, Komodo comes up with a novelty rook e3, but it doesn't seem to be very much, and it's a 0.15 advantage for white. And well, basically black's you know, comfortable if he knows what he's doing. To be honest, as white, I was always rather nervous about these lines. You know, you need a lot of energy to play them well, and to be honest, if you get it wrong, then you're just going to end up a position of pawn down, really. So never amazingly tempted. Bishop d6 is another line, and again, Komodo Dragon goes for a line that's been analysed lots. Funnily enough, the game follows a game. Komodo's analysis follows a game Yu against Burke from St. Louis 2022. So pretty recent, really. This move queen d2 is very nice. The idea is that if you go queen takes, we can go castle queenside with all sorts of threats, and then we're going bishop f3 as well, trapping the queen. So bishop f3. Played, queen g6, castles, and now e5 is crucial. Takes bishop e6. Give up a pawn looks very dangerous to open the centre, whilst the king's caught there. But yeah, you are actually developing your queenside pieces here, and yeah, I mean, these are not lines that are easy really to guess at. You've got to learn these pretty well. And this is actually where the game ends. And now actually bishop takes a6 here. Funnily enough, led to a win for white in the game Yu against Burke. Komodo prefers rook g1, knight d5 takes, bishop a6, rook g7, but this is obviously nothing at all for white. The game's just completely equal. But it just goes to show, I think, that you know, even these lines that are theoretically drawn, been worked out, you know, you can easily lose them as a black player. Yeah, especially if you're caught out by white's opening choice. You know, if this is a surprise from white, the chance you'll have all of those lines perfectly in your memory is pretty difficult. But yeah, in general, it looks like this Marshall Gambit with e4, and then this pawn sack with bishop d2. That black's looking absolutely fine in this line, with you know, quite a bit of preparation. I mean, after c6, knight f3, this was Dragon's main line for quite a while, although not in the end. Yeah, expecting knight f6. I mean, d takes c4 is what you really want to play as a triangle player. That's the Noteboom variation. And it's one of those lines that bears the name of a player, and actually he really did. He really did develop this. Was a very talented Dutch player in the 1920s who died young. Of tuberculosis, I think, but he played a number of games that really look exactly like this. So he really is worthy of bearing this name. And yeah, I've played this. I've played this a number of times as white, but never felt comfortable. And I lost a horrific game against Michal Krasenkov, big expert in this line, who played beautifully, by the way. But it was horrific for me because those pawns just marched through to glory. Yeah, Komodo recommends this line, which is quite nice. You know, black tries and stop e3 to e4, and white chases away. I mean, e4 has been played, but e5 is a pretty good reaction for black. Komodo recommends h3, which is quite slow. and then we get this position, and these are complete messes. Yeah, I find these very hard to play for black. Here, you know, I really think that black feels a lot better, but Komodo Dragon considers that white still has resources to you know, to fight for control of these squares, and also to hold back these queenside pawns. You know, the fact that the bishop on b7 is sort of really biting against granite and not able to come to c6 and support a4 is quite important. But this is the Komodo Dragon line. Queen b2, yeah, you might easily not spot this this line. Queen c2, and then after a4 takes, we have the stunning idea bishop d5, exploiting multiple pins on a queen and rook. Rook b4, bishop c6, and white's a pawn up, but yeah, the pawns have been shattered, so this is not very much at all for white. 0.39 according to Komodo, but you would really expect black to make a draw here. So yeah, again, knight f3, d takes c4, not bad, even though it's not Komodo's main line there. Actually, Komodo's main line is to play e3 here, and this is leading back into the Moran Semi-Slav, which again I spent, I'm sure, a few months in total of my chess career analysing this, maybe even more. Doesn't recommend the normal knight bd7 move, recommends a move that's got very popular as well in the computer era, a6. And then this has been played in a number of games already, and to be honest, it's not very much at all. I do remember that I think this was a game, Levon Aronian against Magnus Carlsen, where a3 was played as a pawn sacrifice here. But bishop d6 is recommended. A bit of an odd move, bishop b4 to d6, but we'll see the same in the Queen's Indian, well, with bishop b4 check to e7. The idea simply is that dragging the bishop to d2, you've played b3, you'd really want to have it on b2, and having the bishop on d2, it's not a great square for the bishop. If ever some sort of fight in the centre takes place, this bishop on d3 is loose, for example, so it's not really a full tempo. So rook e1, h6, h3, rook e8, queen c2, e5, takes, e4, but after takes, bishop e4, and now knight f6. This is Komodo Dragon's idea. Basically the idea is that black gives up a pawn, but it's opposite coloured bishops, and black's very active. So yeah, it just looks like a draw there. And this seems to be an improvement over e takes d4 that was played in the game Gelfand-Dreyev 2005, where Gelfand eventually pulled through, and knight f6 seems to be a slight improvement on that. And yeah, Komodo assesses it with a 0.32 evaluation. We reached this position in the end, but with opposite coloured bishops there, it's pretty clear that it's going to end up as a draw. So there we are. That was Komodo Dragon's view on the Semi-Slav. Basically, likes all of the main lines, if you're going to play that. 6 knight e5 against the real bishop f5 Slav, and bishop g5 against the Semi-Slav, offering the Botvinnik system, and also offering the anti-Moscow Gambit. Yeah, I mean, a lot of interesting ideas there, but nothing that changes the face of theory. Still looking, in principle, if black is very well prepared, then black should be able to hold this on the basis of opening theory. And yeah, in the triangle, yeah, plenty of interesting lines there as well. Quite striking that that yeah, you know, Komodo doesn't want to. Yeah, doesn't want to take on rather the Marshall Gambit, and would rather play 4e3 and keep the tension in the position. But even there, black seems to have yeah, good chances with accurate play. So there we are. I hope that's interesting. We're now going to move on to the Queen's Gambit declined and the Queen's Gambit accepted in the next video. Keep on watching.